that's consistently put our heads above the parapet and exposed this sham of a project. People told us privately that we were doing a good job and they agreed with us, but they weren't willing to come out publicly. We usually fought alone, but now we've had a very significant development. The local government association in the fire service has now distanced itself and stated that they no longer support the project. And this government now needs to ask, can this project continue when the very key stakeholder, as they like to call them, the democratically elected local councillors who are supposed to run the fire service say they have no confidence in fire control? Then that is clearly a time to scrap the project as a whole. There will be a general election next year and we'll have a new government. So today we have the opportunity, everyone in the hall here has an opportunity to go over the road and ask people what they intend to do if elected at the general election. The Tories, for example, have gone on record saying they will scrap the project if none of the regional centres are up and running. Well, none of them will be. So there's a case to scrap the whole lot of it. But when we asked them face to face, I have to say it was far from that clear. So if you've got Tory MPs, you need to ask them for clarity and clarification on that point. And if Labour is elected, what will they do? And we also demand that they scrap that project now and if they're elected after the general election. But if they ignore us, either of them, then our job is to protect our control members and protect our control members' jobs. And we've put forward 3 simple demands. No compulsory redundancies, recognition of our union, and grey book terms and conditions. They're not militant demands, they're extremely moderate and modest. It's what we've already got. We've never had a redundancy in a whole-time fire service. So why do we have to have them now? Nothing we don't already have, moderate and sensible. But if they don't grant them, then we're putting them on notice that we will fight them every step of the way to protect our control members' jobs and conditions. And we give them notice today that we will use every single weapon in our arsenal to defend those jobs and to defend those members, and that this campaign won't stop today. We will go over the road to tell MPs what needs to be done, but we will also, more importantly, go back from here to every single branch in the Fire Brigades Union and say that if we don't achieve those 3 demands, we will be calling for your support, and we expect that support to be delivered. And the control project is supposedly part of what they call the modernisation agenda. And it's a phrase we are sick to death of. Most people working in the service do not see it as modernisation. Most professional firefighters see that what has been created is a target-driven regime where standards are being sacrificed at the altar of local determination through IRMPs. Last year we came here to Parliament to highlight a very serious concern about firefighter fatalities. And during that campaign, in the build-up to the lobby, members across the United Kingdom told us their concerns about where this service is going. Concerns about the increasing gap, for example, in training between the best regimes and the worst regimes that we have. The trend to develop different standards in terms of appliances, equipment and operational procedures to deal with different types of incidents. And we've taken on new roles in the fire service: increased community fire safety, youth engagement, new operational challenges such as new dimensions, urban search and rescue, the major floods and so on. And our members have consistently responded absolutely magnificently. And government tell us every so often about the achievements of the fire and rescue service. Well, we already know, thank you very much. We're the people who do the work on the front line. Who is it who's delivering those improvements? Who is it who has forced down fire deaths? Who is it who's led the way on those youth engagement schemes? It's firefighters, it's Fire Brigades Union members who are delivering those improvements up and down the country. We don't need lectures off politicians or chief fire officers. It's us who are doing it on the front line. Who was it Who was it who responded to those London bombings, crawling through those smoke-filled, blackened tunnels to save lives? Firefighters. Who was it who in 2007 and afterwards went to those terrible floods in Humberside, South Yorkshire, in the southwest, from all over the United Kingdom? Who was it? Firefighters, Fire Brigades Union. All of us working together as part of the team with our emergency fire controls at the heart of that emergency response. So to deliver a genuine, modernised service where we can work together, we need those professional standards that are across the United Kingdom, with training, equipment and procedures at the heart of that. And our members have been very clear that that's what they want. How the hell do they expect us to work together at those large incidents unless we've got some common standards, common equipment and common training? So our campaign is about building a genuinely modernised service for the future. And I mentioned the floods, and we were praised then. We were praised to high heaven. But in South Yorkshire today, we are being treated disgracefully. Threatened with the sack. Why? Because our members will not agree to what the Chief Fire Officer says he wants. And there's a very blunt message to anyone working in the fire service there. You do as we tell you to do, and if you don't like it, clear off, get yourself another job. That's what they're saying, and it's an absolute and utter disgrace, and we're not accepting it. And Jerry has said it, we want a deal, we want a settlement, but it has to be negotiated with the Fire Brigades Union. It has to be with the agreement of our members in South Yorkshire. I, along with everyone else here today, congratulate our South Yorkshire members for the solidarity they have shown with each other so far. And I say to Jim Andrews, the chair of the authority, and to Chief Fire Officer Mark Smitherman, you ain't seen nothing yet unless you back down and start talking and negotiating with us. Now, South Yorkshire shows what some principal fire officers think of firefighters. The people who really do the job, the people who really deliver this service, the professionals who day in and day out are making our communities safer. And behind those attacks lies an agenda which Andrew mentioned. The disgraceful comments, which I hope everyone in the room is familiar with. His name, Chris Wormold, senior civil servant at CLG, who in 2007, in an interview across the road there, said attendance times do not matter. Well, first of all, he's completely wrong. That's not what the research shows. It's not what anyone with an ounce of common sense knows. And it is a complete and utter insult to anyone like Rachel in the film there who's lived through a fire, and anyone in the fire service who's ever attended a fire. What an insult that that man has made. But it's part of an agenda. It's part of an agenda that is about undermining what we do, undermining emergency response. And that is how they intend to get away with their attacks on frontline jobs. That is how also they intend to get away with the attack on our emergency controls. And if they can get away with it, then it allows them to further and further attack our jobs, close stations, and fragment our service. And ultimately, possibly to privatise it. Because another thing which I'd ask people to think about is the